Good evening, fellow children of the night. So this is the second part of my Halloween watches, and just like last time, I've only actually got round to watching 3. Well, 2.5 technically, but we'll get to that. Yeah, that sort of like Halloween wind that was blowing has just sort of died down a little bit, and I've just really not been in the mood, but I have watched a few things, so I thought I would talk about those. And I've got some sort of lighting going on. I don't know what you call this, but it's atmospheric with the candle, and that was very camp. So yeah, 3 films, or 2.5. And the first one is Kaltiki, which is a film directed by Ricardo Freda, but it does have a lot of involvement from the legend that is Mario Bava, especially when it comes to the effects, especially the matte painting effects. And yeah, sort of like an Italian creature feature. You don't really see too many of these sorts of films. Well, mind you, creature features more like giant alligator or shark or something like that. But yeah, sort of sci-fi. I'd say it's actually a little bit more sci-fi than horror, to be fair. But yeah, not many sort of films were made in Italy in this vein. But I hope you can see that okay. Shot in black and white. I think it's like 1959, early 60s. That's a period of horror that I don't really tend to enjoy, to be honest. I mean, I love like early 20th century sort of like German, what you call it, expressionist horror, with the disproportionately painted backgrounds and that sort of stuff. But pick this up in CEX for dirt cheap, and thought I'd give it a go. This is the second time I've watched it, and got some really good effects in there. The Kaltiki monster is, I think it's just essentially tripe, and they've sort of like, with puppetry and that sort of stuff, quite effective. There's for its time, I would imagine it being quite shocking. There's a scene where the monster like attacks one of the main characters who becomes the villain in the film, and it like sort of engulfs his arm, so the other guy cuts it off, and then when they are able to like take it off, it just basically eats him to the bone from about there down, and it looks really quite effective. Yeah, it's not that good of a film, if I'm being honest. The only saving grace, I would say, is Mario Bava's involvement, and once again just showcasing how much of a master of his craft he was. It's got that sort of like typical 50s sci-fi soundtrack. It's shot beautifully. The matte paintings in like the backgrounds and stuff like that look just fantastic. And aside from that, there's really not much going for it. Arrow did a really nice job with this release. Blu-ray and DVD combo. Packed full of features. I think you get an audio commentary from Tim Lucas, who definitely knows his things. Definitely knows his things. I'm just having a look now. I know it's Troy Howarth who does one of the commentaries. So you get commentary from Troy Howarth and a commentary from Tim Lucas. Both know their way around Italian cinema. I will probably revisit this film just to watch or listen to those commentaries. There's a nice little documentary talking about like monster films, and especially this film from Italy. But if you like your sort of like 50s low budget horror that does have some atmosphere in it, then I'd recommend it. But aside from that, it's not the best film that I've ever watched, in all fairness. Barra did a really nice job. There's 2 versions on this. There's sort of like a kind of a full screen, but it's widescreen print, where you see a little bit more of Mario Bava's work, and that's the print that I rewatched. And yeah, shoddy acting, as you would expect. What more can I say? Very Lovecraftian as well. So if you like that, if you want to collect Lovecraft inspired sort of films, then give it a go. Next up, and I can only show you the box set, I watched Werner Herzog's Nosferatu, the English dubbed version, which I think is actually dubbed by the actual actors in there. It's got Bruno Ganz as the main character who goes to visit. Nosferatu, played fucking wonderfully by Klaus Kinski. And it's also got the... I can never remember the actress's name, but she was in Possession. Absolutely stunning. It's got this sort of like... Obviously, because it's a period piece, but she's like got this like sort of like gothy makeup sort of vibe about her, which I do really, really dig. And everyone puts in a great performance in this, but for me, the scenes with Klaus Kinski as Nosferatu are just fantastic. It's been a long time since I've watched the original Nosferatu, so I can't really do any sort of comparisons. I think this is a completely sort of like different take on the story compared to that, though. Shot in, I think it's a village in Holland, but just beautiful architecture. One of the things that I love about Werner Herzog's films is just how much of the environment and the scenery becomes a character in of itself. There's some beautiful location photography, some really imaginative sort of like slow motion shots and high speed shots of the transition of like clouds in the sky, some beautiful imagery of the castle. The village as well is shot, especially the scenes in the village square. And I've noticed that a lot about Herzog's stuff is he knows how to capture the environment as well as the action that is framed within the environment. Wonderful use of mise-en-scène. And, I mean, yeah, Fitzcarraldo, probably one of his more epic features, where he literally lifted a boat over a mountain. But, yeah, Popovy's score to this is wonderful as well. It's sort of like got this... It's got a sensory overload about it, but at the same time, it is so dreamlike and almost meditative that you could just chill and just relax to this film. The effects are pretty good as well. Seeing Bruno Ganz slowly transforming, because obviously his character gets bit. Can't remember his character's name. There's a really funny character in this as well, who tasks Bruno Ganz of visiting Nosferatu, who's just like completely manic, just like laughing all the time. It's a little bit silly, but it's really interesting as well. You'll have to bear with me, I think I'm getting a sore throat. I hope I haven't been bit on my neck anywhere. But yeah, a wonderful, wonderful film. Everything about it is just fantastic. It's just Werner Herzog. Classic Werner Herzog. Taking on an already established story. There's, you know, when you take on a story like Dracula or Nosferatu or any of those sort of like pieces of literature like that, or referencing films gone by, years gone by, there's always a risk of it being ineffective and just being pointless. But he's done an absolutely wonderful job with this film. By the way, this BFI box set, I managed to get this half price in FOP one year. Packed full of all his like major films. I mean, obviously it's not a complete filmography. I know a company in America did like a definitive like Werner Herzog box set, which looked absolutely wonderful. But I've got to say, BFI's set in general is just fantastic, as you would expect from the BFI. But yeah, it's really hard to describe Herzog's adaptation of Nosferatu. You do get both the English and the German version. I think the film itself, from version to version, is the same. It's just obviously one's dubbed in English and one is in the original German language. But yeah, just such vision, I would say. But at the same time, it's still hauntingly beautiful as well. As I said, especially the scenes where Klaus Kinski is either hamming it up or he's just... I don't know, there's this weird scene where he's like running through this empty town square. And just like the way his cape is like blowing in the wind. I mean, the makeup effects are wonderful. They've done a fantastic job with Nosferatu himself, which obviously pays homage to the original film adaptation of the story, but also giving it something a little bit new. And he sure does like to grope as well, doesn't he? But yeah, it was a role intended for someone like Klaus Kinski. Special features include a little sort of like documentary that was filmed for like TV, I'd imagine. You just have to bear with me 1 second because the TV's about to go off. Hate that, why can't we just stay on? But yeah, wonderful, wonderful stuff. And I'm really tempted to try and get hold of the Blu-ray that BFI did. Not the Blu-ray, the Steelbook that BFI did. I'm doing a really terrible job about talking about these films. And one that I was watching, but then stopped because the disc decided not to work. And that is The Lady in White. But the German title, because this is the German disc that I got pretty cheap when I was living in Germany. Die Fantastische Reise ins Jenseits. And yeah, this is a film from my childhood. I've got really good Halloween memories of watching this. And I'm pretty sure on that same evening I watched The Willies as well. I think I mentioned that when I was going through my horror stuff. Back in the glory days of renting VHS at the local fruit and veg shop that doubled up as a fruit veg shop, video rental shop, fantastic sweet shop, and if you wanted some blue movies, you could get hold of them as well. Unfortunately, long shut. God, takes me back thinking about that place. But yeah, this to me is just like, it captures the whole sort of like spirit of Halloween. The film starts on Halloween. You've got that beautiful sort of like, I'm not too sure whereabouts in America this is shot, but it's got that sort of like, is Midwestern, humble sort of like town. Is that how you describe it? Sort of like the way like Stephen King with Maine, although I don't think this is filmed or set in that part of America. But you know, like the white picket fence, everyone knows each other. Everyone knows like the local policeman. You know, factory sort of town. Lovely shops. It's got that sort of like village-like feel if we're in the UK. And yeah, can't really talk about this too much because I only managed to watch half the film. But it's rated 15 because I was looking into picking up a Blu-ray of this, and there's a director's cut, which really makes me intrigued because I'm sure this version is slightly cut, or I might not have got up to that part in the film, which I remember being in the film, but it wasn't showing it. And it's a bit of a ghost story, murder mystery type thing. Basically, it follows this lad who gets trapped in his school because two kids, not bullies per se, but they play a prank on him, lock him in a school. He gets a vision of a little girl who gets murdered. And then while he's in there, this masked sort of like, you're going to say it's the killer, stumbles in, retracing his steps, and then discovers the lad. Why am I saying lad? I never say lad. Hiding, and attempts to kill him, but he somehow survives. And because of the time period this is set, there's lots of... It makes references to the civil rights movement. It deals with the racism of the time, you know, that small town mentality. And basically, the backstory is there's been a series over the years of young children, little girls getting murdered. And the caretaker of the school is like, I'd imagine he's not African American, but he's an immigrant, essentially. You know, being treated despicably, getting a low-paid job as a janitor, and he ultimately gets the rap. And there's a scene in this that I remember, a really uncomfortable scene, which I won't spoil, but it just shows you how awful. I mean, there's still a hell of a lot of racism nowadays. Although I'd like to think that we've come a long way since then, but have we really? With what's going on in the world? And, yeah, so basically the kid keeps seeing visions of this little girl, and essentially it solves who killed all those young girls. And of course the lady in white, who, if I remember correctly, is, I think she was like the mother of one of the victims who became a recluse, and I think killed herself, but a ghost. I'm probably completely misremembering. I was gutted when this film stopped working. The one thing I did notice about this, though, it starts off as this, like, quite innocent, like, children's horror film. You know, you've got the slightly majestic sort of music, it's all happy-go-lucky, but there's some really dark moments in it, and the tone changes dramatically. And it doesn't always come across as if it was a purposeful transition in tone, if that makes sense. And when I was describing this film initially, it's like a kid's horror film, but it's not really. And there's a really creepy scene of the lady in white just floating outside of the young boy's window. But yeah, it's a perfect Halloween period sort of film. You know, all the autumnal colours, the leaves on the floor, scarves, big jackets, woolly hats. So it really captures the spirit of Halloween perfectly. And I'm really gutted that I wasn't able to watch this all the way through, because I've got some very happy memories of this. And from what I watched up to the point where my DVD decided not to work, it brought back all those really good memories, and that's what I like the most about about Halloween, is going back in time and just remembering getting excited about trick-or-treating. You know, if it was on a school day, getting excited in school. Sometimes classes would get replaced with just activities, have a bit of fun, let the kids let off some steam, dress up, that sort of stuff. And I think a lot of that is lost in this day and age. And it's really, really sad. So when I get to watch something like this, that's a little bit light-hearted, but it's creepy, and it does deal with some quite important issues, because it actually shows archival footage of the civil rights movement, and the first African American to be accepted into a college, and all the riots that it started. I mean, can you imagine living in a time where, because someone of a different nationality or different skin colour than yourself getting the opportunity of college or university would annoy people so much that they would riot and cause civil unrest? It's beggars belief. It really, really is. But yeah, considering I only managed to get halfway through it, I really enjoyed it. So before my throat completely caves in on itself, I definitely need something to drink. That's it, really. I'm going to try and watch a few more this week. Although on Saturday the 30th, it's the 10th anniversary of Ben Wheatley's Kill List. And me and my friend are going to watch a screening of it. And there's going to be a Q&A afterwards with Ben Wheatley, Neil Maskell, and Michael Smiley. So very much looking forward to that. And then Halloween, unfortunately, it falls on a Sunday, and my days have shifted in work, so I'm working a few more Sundays now. So I'll be working, unfortunately, luckily from home. And because our work, the phone lines are only open Monday to Saturday, it means I can probably put a few things on in the background, watch some TV special, Halloween TV special episodes. There's a child safety, public safety film that I've found on YouTube, which I've been searching for it for years, and I swear to God, even though it says it was uploaded quite a few years ago, I've never come across it. But I remember watching it in primary school. Was it? It's not Never Sleep Again, because I'm sure that's one of the Nightmare on Elm Street sort of taglines. Or Never Rest or something like that. It's about safety on a farm, and I remember that being creepy as fuck as a child. So I'll be watching stuff like that throughout the day, I think. So that's about it, really. Yeah, bit of a shit video. Do apologise. I'm just, apparently my body's slowly shutting down. I'm getting the blocked nose again, which seems to happen a lot, and I'm becoming a little bit hoarse. But anyway, so what have you guys been watching this Halloween season? Have you got anything planned? Any recommendations or thoughts on the films that I've I've shown on this video. Imagine if I talk like that. Well, welcome folks to another wonderful instalment of Libidomania. Watched some fantastic films recently. God, could I sound any more camp than I already do? Anyway, cheers for watching. Don't know why you're watching 25 minutes of this bollocks, but greatly appreciate it. And I'll see you all later. Bye. Now let's see if I can time this perfectly. 1, 2. It kind of worked.